You've probably heard it say that knowledge is power. Hmm. Well, I disagree with that. And keep in mind that I was a teacher for 28 years, so I value knowledge a lot. But here's the thing. I don't know how many people you've met who have advanced degrees, like I'm talking master's, doctoral degrees, and they don't use them for anything productive or for anything profitable. I know I had this friend, I haven't really talked to him in a long time, but he had a doctoral degree in archaeology or anthropology or one of those things. The thing is, you know what he did for a living? And I'm not knocking it. It was a decent job. He made good money, but he had a pool cleaning business. So he had all this knowledge in either archaeology or anthropology. I honestly can't remember which one right now, but he had all this knowledge. I mean, a doctoral degree's worth of knowledge, and he wasn't using it for anything other than having the knowledge. And the degree was a piece of paper that he didn't really present or use for anything more than saying that he had it. It was a very expensive piece of paper, but that's all it boiled down to at the end. So today I want to debunk this idea or this myth that knowledge is power, because we are in our culture and in our time addicted to information. We have so much information coming our way, but none of it is productive unless we actually do what we're going to be talking about today. So stick around so you can learn why knowledge is not power and what to do instead.
Hi, welcome to Sincerely Speaking. I'm Marcia Amaro, your self leadership coach. Now, what that means is I'm here to help you rediscover your calling, tap into your greatest potential and strengths, and eliminate those things that keep getting in your way and in the way of your success. So, whatever success looks like to you, whether it is in your career, in your business, in your relationships, or in your life in general, I'm here to help you get out of your own way, remove the obstacles, and elevate all of your life to the next level. If you're ready to see everything that you're capable of and see what your life can look like, I invite you to head on over to marciamaro.com and set up a 30-minute clarity and confidence call where we will talk about your mission, your vision, your goals, the things that you're here on this planet to create, what might be getting in the way up until now, and some actionable, amazing ways to get out of your own way to eliminate all those obstacles and reach the level of success that you've been dreaming of. Are you ready? Are you ready for the next level? Then stick around to this conversation of Sincerely Speaking, and then head on over to marciamaro.com and schedule your 30-minute call. Can't wait to meet you in person. Chat soon.
So here is the bottom line. And today I'm going to be really straightforward because what I want to focus most of our time on is the things that get in the way of us doing what is productive and some of the things to think about so we can step out of just being in that cycle of knowing things but not getting any results from them, and step into the space where we actually will see the results and the profits and the return on our investment, right, on our time. And so when we are looking at knowledge is power, what we're thinking about is if you have knowledge, then you know things that will help you solve problems, that will help you do certain things. But think about how much knowledge you have that you just sit on. If I asked you today, do you know how to lose weight? Do you know how to be in shape? Do you know how to get a six pack? Chances are that most of you, if you're like most of the people I talk to, you do know. You know what you need to do. You know you need to consume fewer calories than you use. You know you need to cut down carbs. You know you need to exercise. And if you want a six pack in particular, you have to do cardio and you have to do some strength training and you have to do exercises specifically geared towards your abs, right? So if I asked you what you need to do in order to be in the best shape of your life, chances are that you're going to say, yeah, I know what to do, right? If I asked you, do you know what you need to do in order to be a millionaire or even a billionaire? Chances are you have some pretty good ideas. And barring some experience in your life that has caused you to think that being rich is not a good thing, or that rich people are evil for whatever reason, or you just have some preconceived notions about being rich that make it so that you don't want it, chances are at some point in your life you've gained some understanding or some information on how you can, in fact, become rich. So if we were just going to go by the notion that knowledge is power, the entirety of the adult population in the United States, at least, would be rich and in shape. Are we rich and in shape? Most of us are not. right? Most of us are getting by on both our health and our wealth. Most of us don't really have much to show for all that knowledge. And yet, we insist on believing that knowledge is power. So, what do? We accumulate information and we accumulate knowledge. And like I said, we're like addicted to information. If you don't believe me, look at how many videos are on YouTube. Just that. And most of them, yes, some are just entertainment, but a lot of them are information based. A lot of them are teaching us stuff to do and how to do it. A lot of them are about how to get to a certain place or how to solve a certain issue or how to do a certain thing, right? So if the premise that knowledge is power was true, then we would be not just the most powerful nation in the world, we would be the richest and the most in shape, right? We would have everything that we want, and we would have no battles, we would have no war in the world, we would have like all this peace and wonderful realization of things, right? All our wishes and all our dreams would actually be reality because we have so much information at our fingertips. It used to be that if you wanted to learn how to do something, you either had to go take a course, pay for it, or you had to find someone who would teach you, like actually go and find someone, or you would have to read tons of books and get a lot of information before you could do it. But right now, whatever you want to do, all you have to do is type how do you do X? And you get pages and pages and pages worth of information. And it used to be that if you wanted to find that information, you had to actually either get in your car or walk or bike to the closest library, go and search through the catalog, right, with all the little cards. And those of you who are on the younger side might not even have a clue about what I'm talking about. If you wanted to watch like old or read an old magazine, you might have to get the microfiche and you know what I'm talking about. So, and those of you who are younger, just look it up, right? And trust me, it used to be a lot of work to just get knowledge and get information. But now the average cell phone has access to as much information as you could possibly want. In fact, much more than you could ever possibly want. One smartphone can host a lot more information than the entire Library of Congress if you're really interested in looking for the information. However, how many of us are actually achieving the things that we set out to do? How many of us are actually getting to that space where the knowledge becomes the power that we claim it to be? Not many of us. And what makes the difference is not accessibility, because, like we just discussed, information is a lot more accessible than it has ever been in history. In fact, we have too much information. But it's not about the knowing, it's about the doing. So it's not so much about knowledge being power. Knowledge is potential power, right? Once you have knowledge about something, then there's the potential that you might use that knowledge to produce something that is profitable and powerful. And that is excellent when it happens. But for most of us, the knowledge stays at the information level in the head. If we cannot translate that knowledge to execution, then that knowledge remains as potential power, but not as realized power. So if we want to experience the true power of knowledge, we have to go beyond just acquiring the information and knowing the stuff. We know a lot of stuff. We know too much stuff. We have to step into the execution piece, the actually getting things done. That is the part that moves us and propels us forward. That is the part that turns potential power that is in the knowledge that we have acquired and turns it into actual power, that turns it into something that is tangible and that is profitable, that turns it into something that is truly able to change and alter for the better, not just our lives, but the lives of the people around us. So let's talk today, and this is where I want to spend most of our time. Let's talk today about the three most common obstacles to execution, the three main reasons why we don't move forward. And briefly, I'm going to talk about how we can shift those things a little bit, how we can start moving out of allowing those obstacles to be the dominating factor and getting things done. Yes, we're going to be like Nike. We're going to swoosh, just do it. And we're going to talk about how we can get there, right? Because most of us think that we don't do more because we don't have opportunity, or that we don't do more because we lack resources, or that we don't do more because we need X, Y, or Z. The reality is that as we look at the three main obstacles that stop execution, you're going to notice that, as I have, right? You're going to notice, as I have, and most of my clients have too, that we've been blaming the wrong thing and we've been looking for the wrong thing in order to advance and move forward, right? So let's stop dancing around it and let's get to it. The three main obstacles to execution. The first one, I'm going to call it something and then I'm going to flip it. So I'm just warning you. I'm not bait and switching, but I'm going to flip it. Okay. Lack of confidence is the number one obstacle to execution. And the reason I say I'm going to flip it is because if you have followed me for any length of time, you know that I don't believe that confidence is what we really need. I think we confuse confidence with other things that we actually need. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But when we say that we don't execute because we lack confidence, I have to add this up here because that is what most people I talk to believe to be true. Most people I talk to really believe that if they only had enough confidence, that if they could only grow their confidence, if they could only be more confident, then they would get the things and they would do the things and they would advance in the ways that they want to and they would achieve the things that they set out to do. Now, parenthesis here for a minute. If you are held back by this notion or this idea that you lack confidence and that your lack of confidence is what's holding you back, and you want to know how to work on just that one piece, then comment confidence and I will add on actually, I might add the link just to the description so that you can see it. But there will be a link in the description so that you can access my Confidence on Demand course. It's a mini course. It's very inexpensive, but it walks you through what confidence really is and how to achieve a sense of confidence on demand when you need it, regardless of whether you're an introvert, an extrovert, someone who's outgoing, someone who's not, someone who has experience or hasn't. Doesn't matter what your circumstance or your context is. With the course Confidence on Demand, you're going to learn how to develop that sense of confidence when you need it for whatever you think you need it. All right. So parentheses over. Let's continue with this idea of lack of confidence as an obstacle to execution. When it comes to execution and getting things done, it's not so much lack of confidence as it is lack of courage, right? It's lack of courage to get started. It's lack of courage to get moving. It's lack of courage to believe that there is a positive outcome that's possible on the other end, right? So it's lack of courage that stops you more than lack of confidence. And how do we then move past this level of lack of courage? Well, the first thing is learn how to create that sense of what we typically call confidence, right? So that sensation inside of you that allows you to trust that you can carry whatever you need to carry on unto completion, get things done the way you set out to get them done, and at least get closer to the result that you're after, right? There's a way to create that sensation. And just as a quick one, right? So that you can go out there and start getting things done right now. Very often, and this is something that I used to try to explain to my students when I was still a school teacher, that I think makes a big difference once we understand it, right? And very often we create a sense of lack of confidence or a sense of fear or even a sense of anxiety by the posture that we assume. If we change our physiology, and Tony Robbins is really big on this, but he's not the one I got it from. I actually believe more in the Amy Cuddy. You can look her up. She has a very famous TED Talk. Amy Cuddy's approach to physiology. Physiology, the way you carry your body, affects the way your mind operates. And I know we typically think it's the other way around, right? Like your mind can affect your body, but it can also go in the opposite direction. So when we learn how to manage our physiology, then we can change what we're experiencing, the sensations that we're experiencing in our body, and that can shift the perception that we have of how we feel about whatever it is that we're attempting to do. And so if you carry yourself like most people nowadays, and I'm not trying to criticize, it's just an observation, right? But if you observe people, most people walk around like this with their shoulders hunched over, right? And that posture is a posture of resignation. It's a posture of giving up. It's a posture of exhaustion. It's a posture of not having energy. If you would just shift your shoulders back and lift your chin up a little bit, right? Like there's a reason why the expression chin up is a thing. So chin up, shoulders back, just changing that physiology right before you're about to do something that's terrifying is going to help you get the energy and the sensation of confidence that you're looking for so that you can move forward, right? So that's just one. The other thing that tends to happen when we lack the courage to move forward is that we are too narrow in our vision of why we're doing what we're doing or why we're attempting to do what we're attempting to do. So if we can really tap into what I call the CVP, which is calling, vision, and purpose, if we can tap into our essence, the CVP that we hold, right? Our calling, what we're called to do in this planet, our vision, what we see ourselves becoming, and our purpose, why we're doing what we're doing in that particular moment, then that allows us to see that what we are attempting to do is bigger than us, that what we're attempting to do is not necessarily for us so that we can get inflated and get a big ego and say, oh, look at what I did. It's because we know that once we get that done, we're going to be able to positively positively affect other people and their lives and the way that they operate and the results that they get. Then we see that there is courage that bubbles up because we're no longer just thinking about us, right? And think about all the stories of parents that get superhuman strength when their kid is in trouble and lift cars to get them out from under the car or do amazing things that we would never envision someone normally doing under regular circumstances. But it's that adrenaline or whatever you want to call it that propels them forward when there is someone else's life, especially someone that they care about, at stake. So it's a similar situation. When you can tap into your CVP, when you really understand what it is, why it is important, and how it can support and help other people, and you can align, right? And I don't love the word align, but you can align or synchronize or find that congruence between the task that you're wanting to perform, the thing that you're wanting to do, that you don't feel like you can execute it, and the results that it will yield and create for those people that are important in your life, the way in which that is going to support and help others, then that is going to help you do whatever it is that you don't feel like you have the courage or the confidence or whatever it is that you feel you're missing in order to do it. So execution is fueled by understanding and being clear on your CVP and seeing how doing this thing is going to have a greater impact than just on you, than just on making you feel good. And it's going to help and support other people in your life, right? And then finally, the other thing that allows you to overcome that sense of lack of confidence is being a powerful self leader, right? I'm a self leadership coach for a reason because I believe wholeheartedly that once you know how to lead yourself past your self sabotage, that once you know how to lead yourself past whatever might be getting in the way, once you know how to fully commit, set intentions that are clear, and fully commit to seeing those intentions come to life, then nothing can get in your way, then nothing can stop you. Then you are going to do the thing because you're going to know how to lead yourself to those results. And you're going to know how to separate the true obstacles from the stories that we tell ourselves. You're going to know how to, once you identify those true obstacles, how to put them in their proper perspective so that they don't feel bigger than they actually are. And you're going to know how to follow through to the end, to the completion of whatever it is that you committed to as your intention in doing this thing. So that first obstacle that I'm summarizing as lack of confidence or lack of courage, if we're going to call it what it really is, can be solved once you know how to create a sensation of confidence in your body, once you've really understood and tapped into your CVP, and once you know how to lead yourself to greater and bigger results. And that's just one obstacle, right? The second common obstacle that I see to execution is the lone wolf complex. The lone wolf complex. That is the idea that if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself, or the idea that you're all alone in this endeavor that you're trying to do, or the idea that you can't find good help, right? Have you heard any of those? Have you said any of those to yourself? Right. So the lone wolf complex keeps us in these cycles of awkward connections where we start connecting with people. We might go to a networking event, we might hire a mentor, or we might work with a partner, or we might go on the date, whatever the case may be, depending on what you're trying to produce or what you're trying to do. And we attempt to do things, but we do them in a really awkward way because deep down we don't believe that it is going to work, or because deep down we have this apprehension and this distrust of the connection that we're making with the other person or the other people, because deep down we believe still that there is nothing that other people can do that is going to make up for you being in control or you being the one who knows what it's supposed to look like in the end. So at the core of this particular obstacle, there is a little bit of ego involved, right? But that is beyond the scope of this conversation. But I would suggest if you find yourself constantly saying things like, if I want things done right, I have to do them myself, or there's no way that somebody else can take care of this for me and do it at the same level that I can, or anything, any version of that, then there is an opportunity for you to get your ego in check. It's an opportunity that I've had to take many, many times, right? So we all have the ego fighting against our ability to effectively connect with other people and to do it in a way that feels effortless and that feels authentic. But once we understand what the ego is trying to do, right? And the ego is not a bad thing. The ego is there to protect us, but it can go overboard, right? As any other part of our brain, it can go overboard. So when we recognize that our ego needs to get back in check, that we need to rein it back in a little bit and say, okay, look, I know you're trying to protect me. I know you want to look good. I know you don't want to be embarrassed. I know you want to feel right because you want to be right because it feels good to believe or understand that you're right. But there's something greater than us. There's something bigger than us. And we get to enroll other people in our vision. We get to get support from other people. And we get to give other people the opportunity to actually feel the sense of satisfaction that comes from serving and from helping alongside of us. Then you can start looking at the three things that are going to turn your lone wolf complex, which transforms into awkward conversations or awkward connections, and change it into authentic connections that lead to support in the right way, right? And the first thing is to understand assertive messaging. Assertive messaging. Now, we tend to confuse because of the way our world and our culture perceives introversion and extroversion, and because of the way our world perceives leadership, right, and empowerment. We tend to confuse being assertive with either something that is innate to extroverts but not to introverts, or we tend to think that the people who are assertive are almost like bulldozing their way through conversations. Like they will not let anybody else talk. They will not let anybody else interrupt them. They will not let anybody else get a word in edgeways because assertiveness to many of us has become just this show of force almost, where if I am going to appear assertive, then I have to stand my ground, speak up, be louder and more verbal than anybody else in the room. And I have to make sure that my voice is heard every time I open my mouth, right? That is not what a certain assertiveness really is. That is not the essence of assertiveness. Assertiveness is more about making sure that your message is presented wholly, right? You're not presenting a half message. You're not presenting a confused message or a contradicting and confusing message. You're presenting a clear, whole message, and whole WHOLE, right? Like complete message. And that message holds true to your beliefs, to your values, and to the person that you perceive yourself to be. Right? That's what assertiveness is. In fact, assertiveness and authenticity go hand in hand. If you cannot be assertive, then you're going to have a hard time being fully authentic, and vice versa. If you cannot be authentic, then you're going to have a hard time being assertive in the true sense of assertiveness. And so when we're talking about assertive messaging, is understanding what your whole message is, what your whole idea is, what your whole vision is, knowing what it is that you want people to fully understand, and not letting other people convince you that that's not it, not letting other people dissuade you so easily, right? It's not that you're going to be stubborn, but not being so easily persuaded that what you believe to be the whole true message is not, and speaking up in a way that allows you to be heard in the right way by the right people, right? Now, I can be in a meeting with 10 people and have 9 people talk consistently, right? I can be sitting quietly in a corner, and at the end, and I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about any person, right? But if you are assertive, just be the person that at the end says one thing, and that one thing ends up touching the other 9 lives or carrying more weight in the conversation than anything that was said by the other 9 people over the span of the entire conversation, right? So assertiveness doesn't really have anything to do with how much you speak, how loudly you speak, how um on attack, right? Or how powerful necessarily, or how I don't know, yeah, how powerful your words are. It has more to do with the conviction that is behind the words, and the message being whole and specific and direct, right? So when you learn assertive messaging, you can let go of the lone wolf complex, and you can start working your way out of awkward connections because you know and you're clear on what it is that you're wanting to bring to the table, what it is that you're trying to present and put forth. And people will buy into your conviction, and they will listen and they will pay attention because they see the level of conviction and passion that you bring into what you're presenting. And they are going to listen up and listen in and lean in to what you're saying because of that assertiveness that comes with a message, right? So when you learn assertive messaging, that is the first step in turning those awkward conversations into authentic connections that will build up your ability to enroll others into your vision and to have that support that is going to propel you and move you forward so you can get done whatever it is that you're attempting to get done, right? The second thing about this whole idea of the lone wolf complex is effortless engagement. Effortless engagement. When you're in a conversation or when you are in an interaction and you're trying to enroll people into supporting your vision and into helping you out and aiding you in completing or executing whatever it is that you're looking to execute, if you cannot engage with them at a deeper level, if you cannot get them to participate in the process, if they don't feel like they're part of that interaction, if they just feel like they're spoken to, right? Or maybe even spoken down to, right? Or if they just hear a monologue taking place and they don't feel like they can put their 2 cents in, or if they don't feel like they have any kind of investment, and I'm not talking money, I'm talking emotional investment in the conversation and in the thing that is being presented so that we can execute on whatever vision it is that we're trying to execute on, then we're not going to get the buy-in that we want. And therefore, that is when we end up delegating something that gets half done or doesn't get done at all, or that gets done in a way that doesn't match what the original vision was, because we don't have the buy-in. And that happens when we cannot effortlessly engage with the people that we're trying to enroll. So when you can create that engagement and you can invite feedback and you can invite collaboration and you can invite ideas and you can invite support, then that creates this engagement in which the other person feels like they have some ownership in the ideas presented and in the results that are being produced. And therefore, you can feel more confident and more comfortable in delegating and in asking for support because you are convinced that they care about it as much as you do. And then finally, in the awkward connections, lone wolf complex conversation, if we could really understand what influence is, how influence really operates, and how to use it effectively, then we would not be so keen on relying on just our efforts, and we would be a little bit more open to having support and to inviting other people to help us. Because when influence is properly used, and see, our society has diluted the meaning of influence to the point where the term influencer even exists, right? But someone who is a true influencer is someone who has the ability to enroll you to a level where you are inspired to move forward, where you're even willing and able to transform the way you've seen yourself and the way you see your role in whatever situation it is that we're talking about, so that you feel empowered, encouraged, and motivated to move forward in doing something about it. And so when you understand what influence really looks like and how to operate at a level of inspirational or transformational influence, when you become aspirational, is the real term, then you don't even have to invite people to collaborate. They will invite themselves. They will ask to be part of whatever project it is that you're working on. They will be moving in by their own passion and by their own inspiration, and they will be coming to you to ask how they can support whatever it is that you're working on. So if we understand influence, like what influence really is and how to leverage it, how to be inspirational and aspirational in the way that we influence others, then we can completely count on not having to do anything on our own, which will lead to faster, greater, and more effective execution, right? So when it comes to the lone wolf complex, which is the second obstacle to execution, think about those awkward connections that we tend to have when we believe that we're the only ones who can do whatever it is that we set out to do, or that we have to do it alone for some reason, or that it's hard to get people to support you in whatever it is that you're trying to do. And the three keys to getting out of those awkward connections are assertive messaging, right? So learn how to express your vision, your message in a way that is truly assertive. Effortless engagement, get people engaged and to have buy-in so that they feel ownership around supporting and helping you in whatever project it is that you're trying to execute, whatever it is that you're trying to do. And finally, understanding how influence really works so that you can become aspirational to the people around you, and then they will volunteer to help. Maybe not for free, but they will volunteer and move forward, trying to support you and help you because they believe that they have something to bring to the table, that they have something to share and to use in order to support you, right? And then finally, the last obstacle to execution is imbalanced effort. Imbalanced effort. So very often I hear people talk about how, oh, I would love to do this, but I don't have enough money. Or I would love to do this, but I don't have enough time. Or it would be great to do that, but I have no support. I have no resources. I have no, you fill in the blank with whatever it is that you say to yourself or that you've heard others say. Right. And what I find is not so much that we don't have whatever it is that we claim we don't have, is that it is imbalanced in our efforts to use whatever resource or whatever thing it is that we're talking about are not focused correctly, right? So the antidote to imbalanced effort is focused effort, right? Focused effort. It's not balanced, it's focused. And if you have followed me for a while, you also know how I feel about this whole thing of work-life balance is an illusion. It doesn't exist. It's just, that's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is present focus, right? We are fully focused on the things, the people, the experience, the whatever it is that is in front of us that is going to support us in effectively executing whatever it is that we're trying to do. And there's three areas in which if we learn how to focus correctly, then we can elevate our execution and we can rise to the challenge of whatever it is that we're attempting to accomplish or complete, right? So the first area is time mastery. Time mastery. Now, people talk about time management. You can't manage time. You can't. You can master how you use time, but you can't manage time. You can manage yourself in time, but you can't manage time. And I know you're probably thinking, Marcy, that's just semantics. You're just playing with words. And it might seem that way, but these are very key distinctions. When we are going around trying to manage time, we get huge to-do lists. We get 10 planners. We get a time management app. We get all these tools and resources to help us leverage time. But if we are not managing ourselves in time, we can have all the tools in the world and we're still not going to get the things accomplished that we want to get accomplished because we're not going to know how to really master the time that we have in our hands, the way that we do things. I'll give you a clear example. I used to think that I didn't have enough time. That was one of my things. And one day I was having a conversation. This is when I was still teaching in the classroom, right? I was a school teacher for a long time. So this was during that time. I was having this conversation with one of my colleagues who was obviously also a teacher. And we were talking about our morning. And she was like, yeah, by the time I get my baby ready and get out the door, I just don't have time for anything. So I always end up buying lunch and buying dinner and doing all these other things because I don't have time for anything. And I just kind of chuckled and I said, well, every morning I make breakfast for me and for my husband. I help my daughters get ready for school. I drop them both off at school. I pack them lunch and I pack myself lunch and I come to work with my lunch packed and then I get home and I cook dinner at night and I still have time to help my daughters with homework, and we usually have a little bit of time extra before they have to go to bed where we either read together or we just chat or maybe sometimes we watch a little something, but we have plenty of time for all of that. And she just looked at me like I was an alien. She was, well, you must manage time better than I do. And then I realized, no, it's not that. It's just that I have learned, right? And I have continued to work on it and I have made some changes since then. But I knew that what was a priority and what was a true intention for me to do required X amount of time. So I had a choice. I could either get up earlier and start doing all the things that were important to me earlier so that I could get them all in. Or I could stay in bed longer, but then be rushed and not get to some of those things. Same thing in the evening. Me and my husband set a time for my daughters to be in their room since they were little. And it used to be that was bedtime. Now it's just you have to be in your room. I don't care what you're doing in there, but you have to be in your room by this time. And they're grown. And we still do this, right? Because that afforded me enough time to do some things in the evening that would help me set myself up for success the next day. Yes. So when I understood how to manage myself in time, then I got mastery over time. Then I was able to be the master of my time and not the other way around. I control what happens in my time for the most part. I mean, there's always things that happen, right? But for the most part, I know how to be in presence, right? How to be fully present to what's going on, to the time it's taking me, to the time I still need, to the things that I want to do, to the things that I need to accomplish, to the time frames that I have, so that I can be in mastery of my time. And one of the big shifts that had to happen for me was I had to stop setting annual goals for myself. And I know that sounds weird, but I had to stop setting annual goals because what happened, at least to me, and I believe it happens to a lot of people, it happens to a lot of my clients, and I've heard enough and I've studied enough case studies and things like that to see that this is true for most people, that when we set ourselves, and actually there's a principle behind this called Parkinson's law, but when we set ourselves for a large time frame, for the completion of a goal, we will continue to find ways to postpone the completion of that goal until the deadline, until the last deadline, the latest possible time. And very often we will even find ourselves not meeting it at the deadline, but needing to give ourselves a grace period of a few days after the deadline in order to complete it, right? And that's Parkinson's law, which states that a task will expand to the amount allotted for it. So if you give yourself a year to complete a goal, you're going to take a year, possibly a year and a month. But if you give yourself 3 months, to complete it, you're going to get a lot farther in those 3 months than you would have in the whole year. And you might still not hit it right at the 3 month mark, but you're going to come really close. And now you have shrunk a 12-month goal into a 3 or 4 month accomplishment. Make sense? So when you understand all these principles that have to do with time mastery as opposed to time management, then you can set up yourself for success, and you can have a focused effort because you don't have time to waste, and you're not playing with this idea of trying to manage time, right? The second thing is leveraging your resources. Now, there are 4 T's that I consider to be our greatest resources, and one we already talked about, which is time, right? But our 4 T's, our 4 greatest resources are time, treasures, talents, and teams. Time, treasures, talents, and teams. So when we're talking about time, we already discussed that, right? But treasures is your material resources, right? So your money, your investments, your house, your car, anything that is material falls under treasures. And when you know how to leverage your treasures, they can go a lot further than we often tend to think that they can. The other one is talents. Talents are your skills, your knowledge, your abilities, the things that you can do really well and maybe even better than most. When you really understand what your strengths are and you are operating from your zone of genius, right? And that is not my term, as you know, but when you're operating from your zone of genius and you know how to get yourself into quote unquote flow states, which are those times when you are operating from your strengths and you're doing what you are passionate about and what you're really, really good at, and you're operating within the scope of the things that you know you can do without even feeling time go by, then you're maximizing that resource of talent. And then teams goes back to number 2, right? You don't have to do things alone. We all have teams, whether we admit to it or not. Your family is a team. Your coworkers are a team. Your employees are your team. Your church is a team, right? So we have your community is a team. So we have tons of teams at our disposal. The problem is that some of us, especially those of us who identify as being introverted, tend to shy away from enrolling teams into helping us. And we already talked about that in number 2. But when we can start leveraging our teams, and we can start knowing what to delegate, what to ask for support on, what to let go of, what to give to someone else to do, what that's delegation. But you know what I mean. When you can start utilizing and allowing the people in your life to support you and to be part of that leverage support and resource, then you can get a lot further faster, right? And then the final element of imbalanced effort, turning it into focused effort, is understanding the difference between what it means to be a wanderer and what it means to be a wayfinder. So just to sum it up real quick, and I have resources at your disposal if you want to learn more about the wayfinding principles and the wayfinding system. But when you go around wandering, right, you might have a quote unquote map. You might have something you're following or someone that you're imitating, or you might have some sort of notion of where you want to go, but you're not 100, no, it's not 100% clear. I almost made the mistake of going there, right? But when you're not clear on, or at least decided enough on what your own destination and what your own path gets to be, then you can be wandering around in circles because you are going to try to execute in the way that someone else did. And that's not necessarily the way that is going to work for you. But when you are a wayfinder, you know what your destination is. You know the general direction, but you also know that you get to pave your own path. And yes, you can use the experiences of others, and you can use the resources that others give you, and you can model certain things, but you get to take those tools and use them to trace your own path to your true north, to the direction in which you get to go, to the destination that you have traced for yourself, that is probably going to look different from what other people have accomplished. And you give yourself the space to be different, to be unique, to be your own, to do what is your way of achieving and your way of moving in that direction, what you were created to bring, not necessarily trying to be anybody else. Then you can start moving forward in a more focused way because you know what your destination gets to be. And I always say that the important thing is not the path, is knowing what the destination, what the final result is that you're working towards. Because we all have been in the position where we want to get from A to B, and there's a detour along the way. There's a road that's closed. There is I don't know, a parade that we didn't anticipate, or there's so much traffic that we need to deviate and take a quick detour, right? Or it might just be that we see something that catches our eye off to the side and we're like, you know what? Let me go explore that thing for a minute. Let me go take a look at that thing that looks so amazing. And you might actually enjoy that detour that wasn't necessarily planned, but you needed it at that moment. But you know that once that momentary detour is done and you have enjoyed and you have gotten out of it what you need to, you know exactly what direction you want to go back on, because that is still your final destination that you're getting to. So it's the destination that's set, not the path. And a wayfinder knows how to find the path, even if you're deviated for a minute, even if there's a temporary detour, even if there's a roadblock ahead. A wayfinder will know how to navigate around it and continue moving in the direction of that North Star, of that true north that is leading you forward. Make sense? So, no, knowledge is not power. Execution is power. Knowledge is just potential power, but it is execution that fuels the power in the knowledge that you're getting and in the knowledge that you have. The most common roadblocks or the most common obstacles to our execution are lack of confidence, which is really lack of courage, the lone wolf complex, which leads to awkward connections that don't support us, and having imbalanced effort as opposed to focused effort. When we know how to navigate these things, then we can step into powerful execution and we can get it done now. And that is the goal. So, to help and support you in getting it done, I have a brand new program that I'm launching that I'm really excited about. And it was going to be called Impactful, but then I realized that doesn't really speak to what we're going to be doing in this program and what you're going to get at the end. And now it is called Get It Done, right? So Get It Done with a check mark. That is the name of the program. It is going to be an amazing 8-week program, and I am so excited to bring it to you. So to learn more about Get It Done, just comment below, I'm in, and I will get you all the details. Or you can always shoot me an email at marcy@marcyamara.com or find me on social, and all you need to write is I'm in, and I know what you're talking about. I'm in, and I will send you all the details on Get It Done so that we can get it done. All right? I'll talk to you soon. I hope you have found value in this episode. If you have, share it with someone you love. Share the love. Subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And I will see you next week on the new installment of Sincerely Speaking. Chat soon.